Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching your favorite breakfast show, Wake Up Nigeria, right here on TVC. And now it's time for nutrition. And today I have with me Nneka Ogboi, who is an advocate for child nutrition. And she also is a visionary founder of MASH Baby Food. Welcome back to Wake Up Nigeria for the fourth time.
Yes,
well done. This is going to be our final conversation.
I've enjoyed everyone.
It was a pleasure having you here.
Thank you.
So today we're going to be wrapping this up talking about meal prep, which is actually very important because, I mean, past weeks we've been talking about meal planning, how it saves costs, its importance, and all of that. So now let's just round it off now with meal prep, right? Also for the benefits of those just joining us for the first time and all of that. So tell me, what is meal prep? Let's start from there.
All right, excellent. So it's something that we tend to see a lot of or hear about a lot, right?
Yes.
And many times we're like, should we even pay attention to this thing? What is it? So basically when we're talking about meal prepping, right, we're talking about making your foods easier for you to use, right? So all the things that you need to do to get it ready for use or consumption, right? So that can include your chopping, your prepping, your cleaning, how you package things, right? And so that then feeds into the meal planning that we've been talking about. So you prep the items and then you use that to create your weekly menu, for example. So a weekly meal prep meal plan is the most common version that you will find in homes. Some people are super hardcore with this and they go you know, up to monthly, right? But it's always good to start slow. So planning for a week is usually a good place to start.
Okay, because I actually think it's very important because a lot of times on social media, would you say, oh, meal prep, my meal prep, and I'm just like, isn't that food that we're eating? Why are people making it complicated like this? All these people, do you understand? So, I mean, it's important we actually talk about the benefits, right? Because as much as, yes, we think that, I think I've done meal prep before, like having a calendar for the week and things like that. I think it has actually helped in a whole lot of ways. So could you give us that those ways it actually helps and how it actually is beneficial if we actually meal prep?
Yes, so definitely. So when you're meal prepping, meal planning, for me personally, I find that it does three things. It saves you time, it saves you money, and most importantly, it saves you your sanity. And I'll share why
Thinking
I say
of what
that.
to cook, true.
Definitely,
Time,
exactly.
True.
So for a time, you spend a couple hours on the weekend, you prep and you prepare things that you're going to eat during the week, right? That saves you all the time that you need during the week to get on with your life, whether it's work, your family, you're not spending time in the kitchen as much as you would if you didn't have anything. The money aspect, we talked about buying in bulk, right? So if you're cooking in bulk, you're most likely buying in bulk. And so you take advantage of the discounts that come with that. So it saves you money. And then the last one I said is your sanity. Just like you said, you know, at MASH Baby Food, a lot of all our customers are parents, right? And the one thing that we keep hearing all the time is that question, what are we going to eat?
I think that's worse than the whole
It is traumatizing for families, honestly. So when you meal prep and meal plan, it takes that burden away from you.
Yes, it literally is like proactive eating now, or proactive feeding, which actually makes a lot of sense, right? Because by the time you plan everything ahead of time, during the week, you're not thinking about all of that. You literally just run through it, and it's actually simple to go by. Okay, so I noticed you kept on using meal prep, meal planning. So is there a difference? What's the difference between meal prep and meal planning?
Yeah, so they go hand in hand.
Okay.
But the prep is just the things you do to the food. So for example...
To the actual food?
To the food itself.
Okay,
so for example, we prep before storing in my home, right?
Okay.
So I mentioned before I would buy a basket of tomatoes, right? And we use that generally for stew or jollof kinds of food. So when we get it from the market, we prep it. And that means washing, steaming, blending, and freezing. That is meal prepping, right? And then when it comes to planning for the week, we just know, okay, we take a jar of already steamed and blended tomatoes and we use that to cook. That's the planning portion. So they go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand. Okay, amazing. So now let's come down to tips of meal prepping, because I think it's very important. Because one thing to say, okay, buy in bulk, okay, schedule your meals for the week. But now it's very important that we know how to store certain kinds of foods when we actually bring them into our homes. Now let's talk about things that we generally use, right? I mean, of course, if we're talking about food planning, it's also important that we take into consideration the fact that we need to add some nutritious meals to our food. So for instance, we have vegetables now. You spoke about tomatoes. So just help us now. Onions, tomatoes, peppers, let's say carrots, cabbage, lettuce, all those things. And then meats, proteins, how best can we prep them and store them to limit wastage?
All right, so I talked about tomatoes, what I do with tomatoes, right?
Yes.
And then for something like meats, for example, in my household, what we do is when we have chicken or beef, we clean and then season, bag it and freeze it.
Yeah, so that's marinating.
It is marinating for a long time.
Yes.
So when it's time to cook, we just take out a bag that's already seasoned and then we're good to go with cooking that. So that saves us time.
Yes, yes.
Things like beans, right? You would normally cook beans. My kids don't like the skin on the beans, so we always have to peel. So we do that when we buy the beans. So we just soak it, peel the skin off, and bag it. We can use that for moi moi,
for akara.
So it's half the work.
Because one of the major challenges of making moi moi akara is actually that peeling process.
Honestly,
yes. True,
right?
True.
And so that is also a form.
So it just simplifies the whole idea of cooking. So you're not thinking of starting from scratch. You know that things are already prepped ahead of time and all of that. Okay, so now let's talk about vegetables like carrots, lettuce, cabbage, and all that. How
with vegetables, they're a bit different because they don't last as long.
And fruits too.
Right?
Yes.
Yes. Vegetables don't necessarily last as long. So you want to preserve those maybe in your fridge. For example, if it's leafy vegetables, you want to keep them dry. So you want to wrap them in newspaper or paper towel, just something that absorbs the moisture and it can keep in your fridge. That's where the weekly buying comes in, right? Because you can't buy lettuce to store for a month, for example.
Yes.
But when you meal plan and you know you're going to use lettuce this week, then you know that that's what you're going to buy. And this is another way that meal planning and prepping helps you save costs, right? Because you know you're going to use that, so you buy it. And it doesn't go to waste, right? Rather than you just going to the store and seeing this beautiful
them,
bulb of lettuce, let me buy. Then you don't use it, and it goes to waste, right? So it saves that that cost.
That cost right as well. Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. So you plan, or rather probably drop a schedule before you go to the market, and when you get to the market, when you come back, you probably prep it a bit and then cook. Okay, so now, with this prepping and planning, how often do you cook in a week? I'm just using yourself as an example now.
Yes, so that really depends on the family. I do it for a week. Some families, like I said, they would do it for 2 weeks, a month. So find what works for you. I know a lot of times we see online what other people are doing and we're like, let me save that. I want to do this, I want to do that. There's a popular saying, no do pass your power, right? So do what works for you because that is the plan that you're most likely to stick to. Right? If you go ahead and try to do this elaborate thing, you may not end up sticking to it. And then you find that at the end of the day, you're eating foods that you don't want your family eating. You're running to convenient foods, for example, and many times they're overly processed and not nutritious. All
right, amazing. Thank you so much. I'll say that was a banger as a wrap for this nutrition staple for August. Thank you so much, Nneka, for being here. It was amazing having you. And now your sleep is back to you. it's all under your control. Hopefully we'll have you soon. All right, and that's it on Nutrition right here on this Wednesday edition of Wake Up Nigeria. We'll go on a quick break right now. When we come back, still so much more happening right here on Wake Up Nigeria.